Luke 15, 11 to 32. Jesus continued. There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, "Father, give me my share of the estate." So he divided his property between them. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in that whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went and he hired himself out to a citizen of that country who sent him to his fields to feed pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. When he came to his senses, he said, "How many of my father's hired servants have food to spare, and here I am starving to death? I'll set out and go back to my father and say to him, 'Father, I've sinned against heaven and against you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants.' So he got up and went to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. The son said to him, 'Father, I've sinned against heaven and against you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his servants, 'Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate, for this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is now found.' So they began to celebrate, and meanwhile, the older son was in the field. When he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called one of the servants and asked him what was going on. 'Your brother has come,' he replied, 'and your father has killed the fattened calf because he has him back safe and sound.' The older brother became angry and refused to go in. So his father went out and pleaded with him. But he answered his father, 'Look, all these years I've been slaving for you, and I've never disobeyed your orders. Yet you never gave me even a goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours, who has squandered your property with prostitutes, comes home, you kill a fat calf for him?' 'My son,' the father said, 'you are always with me, and everything I have is yours.' But we had to celebrate and be glad, because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found." Please pray with me. O Lord, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be pleasing in your sight, O Lord, our rock and our redeemer. Amen. Friends, this is one of my favorite stories, my absolute favorite, that Jesus told. And it's one of his most famous stories. And we're familiar with it. We've heard it a lot of different times. But one of the things that I love so much about God's Word, about the Bible, is that it is new each time you engage it. It is a living and active Word. And as circumstances change in our lives and in the world, the Word speaks to us in fresh ways. I've studied this text a lot of times. And some particular things jumped out at me this time. See, this story that Jesus tells invites us to enter into it, to relate with the characters, to find ourselves in the story. And what does this story consist of? Of all things, in the midst of what's going on in this worldwide timeout, this story causes us to focus on the interactions that are happening at home and in a family, between those who are sharing intimate space and who are struggling to relate with one another. This story invites us to experience family dynamics between 2 siblings, a younger brother, the older brother, and their father in their home. And it's set within the context of a whole village, a neighborhood. First, let's look at the son. Let's try to catch his face, that younger son. Maybe you can relate to him at this time in your life. College students, exiled to home right now. That's the last place you want to be, and we know it, okay? Let's just be real about that. Maybe you can find yourself in this younger son. This is no fun. I miss my friends and the kind of life that I had back then. And maybe in that seeking after fun and pleasure, there is a very real tendency for you to just sort of try to tune out, to avoid home, people you share a home with, to distract yourself with all manner of different things, to seek that fun and freedom. Kids, maybe if you've been in the homeschool environment right now, not used to that, maybe you're struggling in the same kinds of ways to want to be at home and around your family. But maybe you can see yourself in this younger son in a different way too. That place where he bottoms out, where he runs out of resources, where he's used to always having enough and getting it done on his own. Maybe some of you are experiencing that, where the things that you kind of took for granted on a regular basis, they're not so easy to come by as they once were. You can't take care of things on your own, and you need to ask for help from others. And it takes some grace to do that. It takes some courage to do that. And the story invites you, this younger son invites you to learn how to come home, to learn how to ask for help from others. But then we can also find ourselves in an older son. What's this guy doing? He's holding down the fort. He's doubling down on the home life. The younger son is all about fun and freedom. This older brother, he's all about the rules and responsibility. He's got endless to-do lists, and he feels it. He's got the weight of the world on his shoulders. He's stressed out. He's not sleeping well. He's overworking to try to manage and maintain a sense of control that he's lost. He's wrestling with anger toward other people, fear that there just might not be enough, and jealousy at how things are going or seem to be going for others. Friends, maybe you can find yourself in that older brother as well, mired, buried in responsibility, with endless to-do lists and uncertain of what's really supposed to be on those to-do lists anyways. But maybe you can also find yourself in the dad. Maybe if you've been in a caregiving role right now in light of what's going on in our world, you can really relate with what that father is feeling. At home, praying, feeling so distant from those kids that are in another state, in another city, those relatives that you've been caring for who are in a nursing home where you can't get in to see them, those folks who are long-term hospitalized, who you're blocked out from going to see them in person. This dad, he loves both his sons. He loves all the people. He's full of grace and love, forgiveness and patience and generosity. This dad will provide for everyone. And he wants us to trust. And he longs for us to see each other's faces, to really listen to each other's voices in this time, to slow down enough to notice, to claim this space that's been given us. Because he longs for us to be together. Friends, I love this story so much because what does it lead toward? it leads toward a neighborhood barbecue. Cello, come on! I mean, aren't we all just like wanting to get out the grill and our favorite foods and light that grill up and invite our friends over and hang out and have our preferred drink and share conversation with all our kids playing in the yard to celebrate all that God's provided and to just revel in that togetherness. See, I love this story because it points us there. It says God's kingdom and this homecoming to Him where we trust in Him and we start loving one another, it's like that neighborhood barbecue. And in our world right now where we're just craving that, some of us, that time will come. And it's going to be glorious. It's going to be all the more glorious for how we've been kind of closed up into ourselves in this time. For those of you who've been missing the together in this space, seeing all your friends, worshiping as a whole church, that time will come and we'll come back together. And we'll pull out all the stops and we'll celebrate the resurrection all together. But for now, maybe God's calling us to slow down and to pay attention to those who are closest to home, to look them in the eye, to have enough patience to seek to understand where they're coming from and what's in them. Maybe God's calling us to be courageous, to tell about what's really going on in us and be honest about it. And maybe God is calling us to grow a heart like the Father in this story, who seeks even just the one. We may not be able to be together physically as a neighborhood right now, but we can seek after in smart and strategic and loving ways that one who is lost, that one who is isolated, that one who doesn't have what they need, that one who needs a smile, who's serving in a grocery store or wherever, who needs to be encouraged in this time with what they're offering and where they are and how they're helping. Friends, the barbecue, the homecoming feast, it's coming. But for now, let's let God welcome us home. Let's meet those at home with us with all the love we can muster. And let's focus on the one and the one and the one until everyone in our neighborhood is cared for. Because even in this quarantine time, we can, in so doing, become a global neighborhood and meet the needs of those who lack so that they too can see this generous Father provide. And all God's people said, Amen.